And hello, party people. Welcome back to another NRW review. That's right, another NRW video for all our fans in Facebook land, internet land, and beyond. I'm your host, Dave Nestacado. I'm here with my buddy from Another Nutty, the one and only Rob, the movie guy. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well, man. Thank you for the intro here, and
you're welcome,
everybody here for joining us here today, because today we are in part 2 of the Bill and Ted series here for Bill and Ted Bogus Journey here. Now, before we get into our thoughts here, let's roll the trailer here real quick.
Roll it.
I have a feeling we're about to embark upon a most unprecedented expedition.
Once they made history.
I must see to it that you die.
Now, they are history. Bill and Ted are dead.
Welcome to hell.
It's the Grim Reaper, dude. How's it hanging, Def?
But they're having one hell of a time.
This is not what I expected this place to look like at all. We got totally lied to by our album covers, man.
Taking in the sights.
Not bad, dude. We totally knew a guy got one of those in his bucket of chicken.
Making new friends.
Excuse us, dude, but is there any way we can get back?
You may challenge me to a contest.
J7.
You have sunk my battleship.
Excellent!
Best 2 out of 3.
What?
Enjoying the family.
No way!
Invading the present.
I totally possessed my dad.
Battling the future.
You're metal, dude! Excuse us, but your shoes are untied. Can't believe we just melded death!
And meeting their maker.
Guy, congratulations on Earth! Not to mention your other great planets. Mars, Jupiter, Uranus.
It's the comeback of all time. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. It's a trip.
Best of 7?
Damn right!
Ah, dude! Left hand red.
Ah! Yeah! Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
And what a bogus journey it was. I like the film, bro. Like, I know a lot of people are not going to agree with us, but Rob and I enjoyed this film better than the first film.
Yeah,
and you can clearly see the production value from this film as a lot higher than the other one, previous one. Especially with the opening sequences and later on the special effects, they really went out of their way to kind of push the feel and aesthetic that they were going for here, especially the look and feel for the movie, and a different tone. You can definitely tell that.
I agree with you on that.
As I was arguing with Rob earlier, I was kind of telling him like the opening sequence reminded me a little bit, kind of like Demolition Man, almost like the future. How they kind of set it up, how they kind of show a little bit the style of dress.
I don't see that at all. I don't at all, because when you were talking about it, I was like, makes no sense. And then you're talking about, I was like, I never thought in a million years I would ever say, well, I got to do a double billing here. I'm going to watch Bill and Ted Bogus Journey and Demolition Man, so I can see the comparisons of the two here. So I may actually have to do that one day, and I just never thought I would ever say that here, but here we are now.
Well, it's the way that the future is just depicted here, especially when it comes to technology, the style of dress. It has that weird feel of, and this is the movies that I was kind of bringing to your attention. Demolition Man, especially in the beginning with that opening sequence of that speech. A little bit of Fifth Element here and there with some of the future stuff, and a little bit of. What were we saying earlier?
Super Mario Brothers.
Super Mario Brothers kind of feel like that.
Well, the thing is that this movie came out before all those movies there.
It did.
So I'm wondering now if someone in the crew of those productions there had saw Bogus Journeys, like, you know what, we're gonna take that idea and sprinkle it in these productions here, because I'm wondering now. curious when you're making those comparisons. It never crossed my mind once when I saw Super Mario Brothers, like Bill and Ted, Demolition Man, Bill and Ted, or even Fifth Element, Bill and Ted. Like it just never crossed my mind. You're the first person that ever said that, so I'm gonna have to actually look at those films now just to really see if that comparison is actually accurate from what you described there. So, another topic on its own right there. But so since we're on the topic of the film here, let's get into some things here because there's a lot that you and I have discussed before we started recording here. And one of the things that you and I discussed was that we love this film and we actually think this is the superior film of the two films that had come out already. And we know that's not going to be a popular opinion because a lot of we looked into reviews at that time, even to this point here, that a lot of people don't think this was any good, and we disagree a great deal. Granted, there are some major flaws in this movie. There's some major plot holes that just doesn't make any sense. But overall, the itself was a lot of fun. It had a lot going for it. There's a lot of layers into this film as well too. I want to ask something real quick because we did talk about it before we started recording here. Was that your first experience in watching this film? You kind of had a little bit of a hazy experience when you first saw it. So why don't
rewatching the film, I remember it kind of like a weird fever dream. Like I don't remember actually sitting down watching the whole movie. Like there's other movies that I can watch and I can quote to you. Like I can, I remember watching them. I remember the scenes, and I remember, this scene's coming up. Not with this movie. For some reason, I was like, I remember seeing this scene. Did I dream this? And then it was turned into a movie. Like that's kind of the feeling that I was getting. Like this weird fever dream of a movie, but that's also the kind of the look and feel that the movie has later on, especially during the hell sequences and the afterlife sequences. Yeah, it has that weird kind of comic book pop art, kind of feel to it. Which kind of really helped with the tone of the movie, and the practical effects were just fantastic. If I could just see that as well, and it kind of helped with the look and feel of the film.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, the first time I saw this movie, I actually thought this movie, because here's the thing. When I first saw this movie, I didn't realize this was a sequel. And in fact, if you look at the first film and you watch the second film, they're actually pretty much their own self-contained story. So you don't really have to watch the first film to understand what's going on in the second film, because they pretty much lay it out there in front of you about how important Bill and Ted are to the future. Especially in the first one, they make that as a priority for everyone to get these guys to pass their book reports here. So when I saw this movie, I saw it on TV, when I was a kid, and then I don't know, weeks or months later, whatever it was, I saw Excellent Adventure, which I didn't realize was the first film, and then I had seen the sequel first. So I was a little confused about what was going on and who these actors were, and so. And then I come to find out that, okay, I saw the second film first, and then I saw the first film. But I always remember that I liked the second film better than the first one here. And we discussed that just now, that this movie was pretty much almost like just criticized left and right because the story wasn't all that great, and even though the production value has gone up and all, it just didn't really do anything to garner the audience to be invested with this film like they were in like they were in the first film here. But one of the most consistent things that we hear across the board that people love about this movie is that man right behind you there, and the man behind me here too, is played by Mr. William Sadler, who plays Death in this movie. He is by far, no doubt, is one of the best things about the movie, if not the best thing about the film here. So we were excited when we found out that when they were doing the third film, everyone thought, you got to bring Death back. Will Sadler's still alive. You got to bring him back. And when they announced that he was a part of this that film, we were so psyched about that. And because of his performance in this movie here, he by far steals virtually every scene that he is in. And he doesn't really talk a lot in the movie, which is the funny thing. It's just the him emoting his the physicality of the character, the accent, just the little details about this guy. He's so fantastic in this movie here. And everyone who's seen the film, they love this character. He's really the best part. But I mean, not to take anything away from obviously Keanu Reeves, Winters here, they do a lot in this movie here too. And then you and I were discussing previously about, since I hadn't seen the film in quite some time, and having watched this movie, I thought one of the biggest criticism that I was going to experience with me watching the film for this review was that maybe the shtick that they played in the first film, hey, what's on, dudes? Was going to be kind of tired out in this film here. And then, to their credit, they they did a really good job in staying consistent and adding other elements to the characters to make it a little more intriguing for us here.
Because they were playing technically dual roles, so to speak.
Right.
They were playing there themselves, and then playing the evil version
Bill and Ted robots, which I thought were awesome.
Which they did a fantastic job in playing just the kind of evil, doppelgangers in themselves. Yeah. They did a great job in kind of like the attitude and being meaner and some different mannerisms. Like every time the way you differentiate the robots, they kept doing, the kept putting their arms across their chest like this. Like it was so goofy and stupid, but it worked.
Well, and the plot of the movie, as we saw in the trailer, there is that basically Bill and Ted are going to be taken out and killed because whoever the villain was. I always forget who his name was, but I think you remember, right? What was it? Demonstrator or something like that. Anyways, the point is that Anyway, so that guy, he wants to wipe them out.
Rufus's gym teacher.
Yeah. I thought that was the best thing about his introduction. Like, oh, that's my gym teacher, and I was like, huh, that guy, So like those little stupid elements, which I thought were funny in the movie, I thought was fantastic here. But we'll get into the negatives about the film here. But the point is that they when they introduced these characters here with the doppelgangers, the robots here, I actually thought they were great, and the fact that that Bill and Ted have a lot of layers to this role here, with the actors playing the role here, they have to go through another journey here, but the journey is not traveling back in time, but it's actually the afterlife here, which I thought was very interesting because at that time I believe Ghost had come out because came out the same year I believe Ghost had come out here. So there's something about that movie reminded me of Ghost. So if you want to make a comparison here, okay, Ghost and Steve and Ted. No. Yeah, come on. I don't see Demolition Man in here. I have to watch it again to really see where you're coming from with that. But with Ghost here, because think about it, they die and they gotta go see a medium. So think about that.
All right. So, yeah, you're right. I'll give you that. And the interactions between trying to get everyone's attention.
Which I thought was hilarious too. That sequence there when they're that was funny. And then of course others as well, or Ted's dad, and then the other police officer, captain, or whatever it was in the movie. He was in that sequence was fantastic. Got these like a wonderful layers of these characters being portrayed through other actors here too, which made it very interesting. So, they definitely took a chance at expanding that for these guys here. So I'm not sure if you want to add on to that with the take on these characters for this film. They definitely did take some major left turns here for what they have to go through here. So I don't know if you want to
I think that was kind of like it's like we're gonna kill them in the beginning of the movie. Wait, what? And how are we gonna make it work? Well, we'll make it work. And yeah, I agree. The Ghost comparison, I see where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. Where they're trying to get people's attention and trying to stop their doppelgangers and have no way of doing it, so they go other means to try to kind of get people's attention. And the way that they set it up, how they were sent to hell in the first place, was like, okay, that makes sense. In a weird sort of stupid way, it made sense. And speaking of production value, the sets were actually really, really, really well done, especially in the hell scenes and the heaven scenes. Kind of like that weird claustrophobic setup. Hell. And the use of color was fantastic. Especially in the different rooms that would go in, and the perspective that the camera shots were being used. Now you mentioned earlier when we were talking about like how it's directed by Pete Hewitt and how he had like a comic book history, kind of like comic book background. You could really see that in these shots. He really takes advantage of the screen and the point of view with these shots, especially in those hell scenes, with those close-up scenes, those weird wide shots and angles. That really was really enjoyable.
It was fitting for those scenes there.
Yeah, and you were telling me, surprisingly enough, the grandmother.
So the grandmother in that hell sequence, that really creepy looking old lady.
Gross and creepy.
Yeah. So I didn't know that was Alex Winter. I found out after the fact, of course. And now, if a little bit of background on Alex Winter himself. Now he had done a show back on MTV, which I forgot what it was called, but it's some crazy little weird, like variety type show, but it was just so intense. And I forgot what that show was called, but he had done a movie that he co-wrote and co-directed here, a very underrated movie. And if you watch it, it's a film called Freed. I saw that movie when I was a kid, and I remember seeing that. All I remember was that, oh, that's Bill from Bill and Ted. So I was instantly hooked to watch the movie. Fantastic movie, but the practical effects and the ludicrousness of this whole movie here is so over the top and insane that I watched this film and I'm seeing Alex now that I'm looking at this film and thinking back about how intense and crazy the hell sequence was with Bill's nightmares here. I can see the influence of Alex Winter's sense of humor and wackiness being brought into this movie here, and it worked so well in this movie here. And I also thought that, as you mentioned, the directing style in this movie, all those little like weird comic looking style setups there, it worked so well, especially for this hell sequence. And in Heaven, they had these wide shots, light colors. It definitely looked a little bit drained, but you can see that the sense of what's the word I want to use? It's
majesty.
Yeah, it just had that elegance to it, and I thought that it worked well. But by far,
you see, like, it was kind of funny to see, kind of, you see like the cameos of who's supposed to be who, especially in the afterlife. You see Marilyn Monroe playing chess. You see Albert Einstein playing charades. Ben Franklin. You see a lot of these historic figures.
Yeah.
And you kind of like trying to play guess who's who. That was kind of fun.
Yeah. And what else we have here? We have so in comparison to Hell and Heaven here. Now, no doubt some of the best parts were the Hell sequences here because they were just bonkers here. But the Heaven sequences, the only reason why I thought those scenes worked so well really was because of Will Sadler as Death in those scenes here. If he wasn't in those scenes, I don't think those sequences would have been as memorable as the Hell sequences, because he's not in those scenes at all whatsoever. But the intensity of those scenes there were so it's so you can't keep your eyes off. I'll put it like that here. But Heaven, it didn't really have that feel to it. But Will Sadler in that part, in those scenes as Death, really kept my attention the entire time. So I gotta give credit to the writers having in the movie here.
Even in the Heaven sequences, he was hilarious. When they're talking to like God, he comes back like, "I'm sorry." Like his whole expression, he's like, "Oh, he actually looks really sad" as he walks away. Like, "I'm sorry." They melted me.
Yeah, and he also has a lot of funny lines in the movie too. Like there's a part in the store where they have to get all these parts to build these robots of the robotic versions of Bill and Ted, and he comes across this one guy who's smoking a cigarette. He turns and looks, and he's like, "I'll see you soon," and walks away. Like those little stuff like that. And who, by the way, that was a director who made a cameo there with the guy who was smoking the cigarette at that store. That's Pete Hewitt right there. But anyways, so we like the directing style and the practical effects. We kind of talked about there as well too. In this movie, fantastic. I think it's top notch. I actually think the practical effects in this film were far superior than the first one. Granted, it had a bigger budget there, so they definitely had a lot more to work with here. And I still think to this day it still holds up very well. I mean, I don't know if you felt that way too when you saw the film, even though it's a David movie.
Yes and no. The actual handmade practical effects, fantastic. Robot Bill and Ted were great. Yes. Their evil doppelgangers were great. Even that sequence when he pulls back the skin and reveals like the robot, that was really great. It was almost body horror / funny at the same time. So it was really cool to kind of see how they kind of use that special effect. And every time they revealed that they were robots, and that was one nitpick I have to have about revealing that they were robots. But we'll talk about that later. And you could tell when you're watching, if you have a good eye, depending on the type of television that you have, you can see where the green screen Bill and Ted are and the real Bill and Ted are. But it doesn't really kind of take you out of the movie enough that much. But you're kind of like, oh, that's clearly the green screen, or because you can see the kind of graininess a little bit behind them. But besides that, I mean, the movie was pretty well done. Yeah, enjoyed the you could clearly tell that they were used most of the budget there for the robots and some of the CGI.
Yeah, and let's talk about the music here, because we definitely they definitely stepped it up a notch here when it comes to the music. You have some cameo appearances by the group Primus, who I remember as a kid seeing them, and it just weren't really my style of music at that time. But I did remember the visual look of the band, and then having seen them in the movie, I was like, I know these guys. And I was like, oh, it's Primus. I get it now. So we also have at the end of the movie, there was that one song. I think it's called God Gave Us Rock and Roll," which I think was written by Kiss. I think I discussed that with you previously about that, which I thought was a good song. So the songs in the movie really did help out in the film, and you definitely have a lot more to work with that too, because given they have a much bigger budget here. And I mean, I don't know what else we can add on to some of the pauses here, because we definitely went on for quite some time about that. There's a lot
pretty much it. I mean, we have mostly positive things. Now, is it a bit of a mess? Yeah. I could kind of feel there was some, like, you could tell there were some scenes that were cut out, or deleted scenes. Like, I kind of get the feel like there were some things that were missing to kind of get the plot going, especially with the scenes with Missy. When the evil Bill and Ted kind of come in and kidnap their girlfriends, you later see her later on watching the Battle of the Bands. Like, nothing happened to her.
Oh yeah,
like,
so
she was just knocked the heck out by a bunch of evil robots.
Right. So let's give it a bit of a back. So Bill and Ted had asked to marry their girlfriend, and they both said yes. And then after having that wonderful moment there, then evil Bill and Ted pretty much says, like, well, fuck you, ladies, and they pretty much tell them to screw off, and they're like, how dare you? And they threw the rings, and you think you'd never see them again. And just as you mentioned, they just show up out of nowhere at the Battle of the Bands. It just didn't make any sense. Like, you'd think they wouldn't show up, but anyway. So yeah,
well,
that kind of
they showed up because they were tied up. They were kidnapped.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
but I'm talking about prior to that. Once the Battle of the Bands starts, you see Missy, who was with the girls at the time, kidnapped, is watching the story. Like, you're not gonna. Yeah. You were just knocked out by evil robots. Like, did that not occur to you? Oh, where are the girls? Where are the boys? Like, that was kind of like, okay, that was kind of a plot point that was kind of thrown out the window.
And then, let's also get into the villain in the movie here too. Just like Rufus, who's barely in the movie here, George Carlin, who is in the film, but I think he's less in. He's even less in this film than he was in the first film. He's just in the very beginning and at the very end, and that's it, which is a little disappointing because I love that character. But again, it's his impact in this movie was far less felt than he was in the first film, because in the first film you have more of a he was more of the guy who says, here, do your thing, but you're on your own. Figure it out. And then when he needed to help them out, they happened to come across him in that timeline. And then here it's more like he escaped because there's a whole sequence that happened at the beginning of the movie here. That was one of my major disappointments with the movie here. I thought that was something that could have been added to the film. Maybe he could have been a part of that journey with them as well too. But who knows? Maybe his schedule wouldn't allow. We don't know.
And that's one major flaw that I have too. I wanted to see more Rufus. Yeah. I was expecting to see more Rufus in the movie. Again, as this is like not my first time viewing in the movie, but kind of expecting. Oh wait, I wonder how much he shows up in this film, and it was like, wow, that was a lot less than last time. Like, the evil villain has more airtime than Rufus does in this movie, and he doesn't even have much of a presence either.
Yeah, and the villain, what that was kind of weak there too. I understand the purpose behind it, because you obviously need to have an antagonist to help drive the plot here, which was very helpful, but that was really his sole purpose in the movie, I thought. And then we talked about it previously here before we started recording, that the ending was very anticlimactic, which I felt like it definitely was, more so than the first film. Although the first one had a wonderful Big Bang outro where you have all these historical figures here, so you definitely felt that impact of these characters here in the movie. Here, not so much. Even with the introduction or the reintroduction of Rufus in the movie here, it didn't feel like, oh my god, because I completely forgot he was even in the movie. Like, that's how uneventful his presence was of the film here was, because he's in the very beginning, and then you completely forget about him throughout the entire movie, given through all the journeys they went through in this film. And then when he comes back, I was like, oh, he's back. All right, and that was it. So, I don't have anything else that I could add on to that here, because those are really the major disappointments that I have in the movie here. The anticlimactic.
The other nitpick I have is the whole use of time travel, but no seeing the time travel.
there's practically no time travel at all whatsoever.
No, they're like, oh yeah, like we know that you were gonna win anyway, so we set this up and then find that up, and then we have the keyboard, we have this. I'm like, well, wait, it's just kind of like just a way to kind of like, I think that's kind of the shtick that they're going for.
Yeah.
Or kind of the in joke, or like, oh well, you could travel time. I had the key all along. Well, we gave you the key. Like, they're kind of like who can one up the other, and like it's a funny sequence.
Yeah.
Set up, but like again, it
just doesn't make any sense.
There's no payoff, and it didn't really make any sense. Like, what time machine did you use, Bill and Ted? Like, how did you do it? Like, there was no like explaining that that situation.
True. But who needs the explanation here, man? It's Bill and Ted.
It didn't make any sense, but there was no reason. And then I think the other thing was just kind of the ending was just so anticlimactic.
Yeah.
I was actually expecting a big fight between the two robots, even though the other robots were made out of, let's face it, Home Depot parts to put together, but the station character.
Like a low-level Home Depot part, really.
Low-level Home Depot, yeah. I was expecting some kind of like, Rock'em Sock'em Robots kind of epic battle. We sort of kind of got that. They got their heads literally punched off, but that was pretty much it. There wasn't nothing kind of like, oh well, that was it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of fell flat a little bit.
Yeah. But I mean, overall though, I did enjoy the film. So let's give our closing thoughts here overall. So you love the film. I love the film here. Having watched the film now and actually embracing the film and enjoying it for what it is here. Do you think if you saw this film for the first time as a kid, actually sitting through it here, do you think you would have felt the same way?
If I remembered it as a kid, finally, yeah, I probably would have enjoyed the movie a lot better as a kid than I would now. Probably the only thing, the whole grandma sequence probably would have freaked me out because that was just a weird scene, and just the kind of the weird way he moved would kind of freak me out as a kid. But I think I really enjoyed it. Yeah. Especially being into like sci-fi movies at the time. I really liked the whole station character and how kind of muppety he was, because I was into those kind of movies at the time, like all those movies.
Yeah, well,
I was like I kind of brain farted there because I was like a lot of movies in the 90s and the 80s I grew up watching that had that weird Jim Henson feel to it.
Labyrinth was one that comes to mind.
One,
Dark Crystal is another one that comes to mind too.
One,
even the Ninja Turtles films as well.
Never-Ending Story was another one.
Yeah,
like stuff like that was into those kind of movies at the time. So I would have enjoyed it, especially how wacky it was and how funny how funny the jokes were. Like even then, I know they were stupid and kind of immature, but I would have laughed at it. Yeah, and I was also into practical effects stuff too. So yeah, I think a little me, younger me would have enjoyed it.
Yeah, obviously I enjoyed it because I saw it as a kid, and I still think it still holds up well for the most part. I agree with you.
For the practical effects, yeah. CGI, it could be.
Could have been better.
Could have been better.
Then again, they didn't
especially
have
that weird like Windows 95 background of hell.
They didn't have that T2 budget there at that time. That's for sure. Yeah. But I still think I still love the movie to this day. Have not seen it in quite some time. It was nice to come back and revisit here the movie because again, like I mentioned in the first review, I hadn't seen the film in quite some time. But when I come back and watch it, I enjoyed it, and I still feel the same way about that.
That's the perfect segue there. Final thoughts.
Overall, I would give this film a super high cheers. I definitely would recommend it for anybody who loves time travel films, especially stupid ones. Not to say that this was a stupid film, but it definitely had a lot of childish humor there, but it works so well. And I highly recommend anyone to watch this here. So if you don't like it, sorry, man, but this is a great film, and I hope you guys do enjoy it for those who've never seen it there before.
I wouldn't say it was a great film. It was a fun film. And it was kind of cool. It was that nostalgia that kind of hit me. I still recommend it. High cheers.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, but I think it's kind of one of those cliche "we died and came back" kind of stories that you see every now and then on TV and cartoons, which works well. They did a great job for that. I say go watch it, especially if you plan on watching the new one. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And check out the comic book if you can find it. Marvel Comics actually did a comic book for the movie, and actually has a lot more extra scenes in it that were taken out. So definitely recommend checking that out.
And you also mentioned that the title of the comic book is Bill and Ted Go to Hell. Is that right?
Yeah, because that was supposed to be the original.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be the original title of the movie, but they actually made a Bill and Ted Go to Hell comic book.
Yeah. And they decided not to go with that title because I guess it was considered too taboo because they didn't want to promote the film for kids, and then all of a sudden they're going to go to hell. So yeah, I can see why they
can't promote that to kids.
Yeah.
So
Bill
the
and
comic
Ted
book
Go to Hell. Yeah. Well, anyways, all right. Well, so those are our thoughts here on the film here. Now, while you're here, let us know what you guys think of the film. Did you guys like the movie? I know there's a lot of people out there that didn't like the film, but let us know why you didn't like it there. And if you can consider what we have said here, would you go back and watch it and maybe consider what we thought about the film, what made it so much better than the first one there? So let us know what you guys think there. And also, while you're here, be sure to subscribe to our channel here. We've noticed that our numbers have gone up here. We're at 774 as of right now in subscribers here. So we do thank you for all the new subscribers out there who have looked up this channel here and given us an opportunity to bring our numbers up here. So thank you very much for that here. Here at NRW, we greatly appreciate all your support here. And also be sure to share and like the video as well too. And while you're here, check out our social media accounts here too. On Facebook and on Instagram, it's simply just New Release Wednesdays, and on Twitter at the NRW. And for myself here, you can follow me on my Instagram page at Rob_Medina0585, and on Twitter simply just at Rob the Movie Guy. Oh fuck, I'm sorry, I meant to say Rob Medina0585. All right, guys, I'm all over the place here. And then on my Facebook page, simply just Rob the Movie Guy here. And my buddy from the Nutty on the right-hand side who can keep his head straight here, and I'm sure get the job done better than I can here. Where can they follow you, good sir?
I could try. We're going to have to remove that in post, but we'll see what happens. You can follow me at my Instagram and on my Twitter at DavinIsDisaster, and you can follow me on my personal Facebook page on David A. Estacado, where I post a bunch of other stuff regarding indie wrestling, comic books, and every time now and then I get into arguments with Rob about movies and music. Also, speaking of Facebook, you can also follow NRW on our Facebook page as well. New Release Wednesdays at NRW. Just check us out. We'll dropping daily news every day on the daily regarding pop culture, and be on the lookout for all the other videos, especially everything else coming out. New Mutants coming out soon. And besides that, I think Rob and I have one more video to do, and that's for the next one. And hopefully we'll be able to get a hold of that one for you guys as soon as possible. But stay tuned. And if you like what we're doing here, check out what the rest of the NRW crew is doing. We do everything from comic books, movies, video games, heck, even food now. Eventually, we're going to be doing some food videos, and we'll go from there.
All right, guys. Well, until next time here, thank you very much for joining us here. And remember, stay safe out there, and cheers.
Cheers.